All right, so welcome everyone. We are live at the IoT Solutions World Congress in Barcelona. The conference season has kicked off for the second half of 2017, and with me is my colleague Eugenio.
Hello.
We're going to give you we've been here at the conference, and you can see the main entrance here, which is right there. Also, by the way, where Mobile World Congress takes place. And we've been here for the last 2 days and want to give you a quick update on what's happening and what we took away from an IoT perspective. So perhaps starting with, with you, what was your best impression? What did you like most?
Okay, so what did I like the most? Well, actually, I had the impression that the companies here, they seem to be getting better at marketing their own stuff. So for example, just to give an example, IoT platform. 2 years ago, everyone would say we have an IoT platform. Today you find the guys that say I have a device management platform, the guys that say we have an innovation platform, and so on.
So it's more differentiated.
It's more differentiated.
Okay.
They seem to be getting better and getting their message delivered to the right audience.
So I always also thought about what would I say to what I like the most, and it's very similar.
Yeah.
What I liked was the people don't talk bullshit anymore.
Okay.
And what I mean specifically with that is. Most of them recognize that most of the projects in IoT are actually pilot projects, and that very few are only in the commercial rollout phase. And a couple of years ago or last year, some people tried to blend everyone with their message, and now the people recognize and do say that and are very truthful. So I like that. I think people are getting more real with IoT and are acknowledging that this is not the billion-dollar market just yet.
That's
So
I definitely agree. Yeah,
good.
So we had,
the follow-up question to that: what was the least, or what was the thing you liked the least?
Well, what I didn't like much was there were lots of solutions, modern solutions, they showed some of the things that you could actually do with their technology, but that was nothing revolutionary. And especially what I don't like is the fact that it's always from the vendor point of view. So the vendor showing you what they can do. There are no customer stories.
Look, did we talk before we made our notes for this? I have the exact same note for what I liked the least.
Okay. Well,
so my point was, where are the customers? This is the Solutions World Congress.
Yeah.
Solutions.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yes. Where are the solutions?
Well, okay, you can argue the fact that the solution can be shown by the vendor that is selling the solutions, but if you want to convince people to buy the solution, you have to show success stories, and
you have to bring along the customers. And I specifically asked Microsoft, a couple of other system integrators, where are the customers? I know that Microsoft brought their customers to some other fairs. They didn't hear, and to be honest, the fair is okay in size. There is several thousands of people. I have to say the conversations I had were really deep, really good. I learned a lot, but the customers weren't here to give the. Even in the customer panel, which by the way was one of the most attended panel, there was vendors sitting in there discussing customer stories. So fully with you. It's a general problem with some of the conferences that you have on IoT, but it was pretty apparent here.
Yeah, but it's good that we are highlighting this.
Yeah.
Maybe they will change.
So let me ask you. I have written down a few other takeaways that I want to share with the world. So perhaps we can go back and forth. Would love to see. You focus more on the connectivity piece, on low power. I focus a little bit more on talking to smart factories and these kinds. So curious to hear what you have.
Well, from the connectivity side, so looking at at least at the low power area network. So this is the new big thing, And one thing that I've noticed that I would have expected to see presence, similar presence from all types of technologies, and I actually saw mostly NB-IoT presence and Sigfox presence.
Where was Laura?
LoRa, okay, so that's the thing, for Sigfox, you can easily spot them because Sigfox is a company
Yeah.
that also provides the communication technology. So we say Sigfox, that's the stand for Sigfox. But for LoRa, you have actually the Semtech is the company that is actually providing the technology. But they were not here.
Yeah.
They all, actually had two companies that were working with the LoRa, which were Actility, which provides solutions based on the LoRa technology, and Kerlink. They actually have like gateways and base stations on LoRa, but they had very small stands and there were not a lot of people around it. I mean, they were almost always empty. While Sigfox on the other side was always full of people.
That's interesting. And you said, I think you talked to the Sigfox, but you said a lot of the people were actually interested customers.
Yeah, so apparently 40% of the people walking to the Sigfox stand were actually people with a solution in mind that were going there to ask how can we develop this with Sigfox, or can we develop this with Sigfox? What are the use cases? So that was pretty interesting to know, because that means that they are getting traction also with.
Good. I want to talk about another company that I felt was making a strong debut, or like a first timer to me. Google.
Mm-hmm.
Google has continuously not shown up at any IoT conferences in the past. Amazon and Microsoft have taken the lion's share from a cloud vendor point of view in terms of attention for the people. And now Google Cloud was here with a big booth, following an announcement earlier this year that Google is focusing on IoT as well. I personally think they're a bit too late, but I've talked to some of the system integrators and they said, oh look, it's Google, you can't miss them. A lot of people will want to work with Google, and they will make inroads. And so Google has finally entered IoT. There has been Android things for a while, and the people at Google told me that that's going really well. And so, to me that was a good entrance to follow. In terms of concrete customer examples, probably still a little bit to. Oh, we got some people behind us here that are going to join us. Good. Anything else?
Well, I've seen, also presence of, in terms of, technologies that are being pushed forward compared to, 2 years ago, for example, edge computing. I've seen like a lot of presence. I mean, everyone that has an IoT platform, or everyone which is selling gateways, they have some mention about, edge computing, especially when we talk about, this industrial, focusing kind of companies like Advantech and so on.
People have realized that this is a hot topic and that they need to provide a solution for that. So a lot of them have responded. I agree. There was even the Edge Foundry, which is like
what I gonna mention.
So it was just like an association for edge computing, edge analytics, and there were lots of vendors showcasing. They have their own framework, I believe, to make this easy.
That's what they're working on. It's from what I understand that they're pretty young as an association. Not even a year old, but they already have like a good number of members, around 150 if I'm not mistaken. But so there seems to be like good progress on that side. So that's nice to see.
I want to talk about something that I didn't see here and which I think might backfire in the future. Privacy by design. So we've talked about security by design before, and I think a lot of companies have understood that. Nobody talks about privacy. It is a huge issue from a customer point of view, specifically in Germany and probably also in Italy and in some other countries. We will have a new law coming into effect in 2018, which is called the GDPR in the European Union, which requires a lot of companies to take a very clear stance at what they do with data they can generate out of IoT devices. And nobody seems to be prepared. I had a chat with an expert on this topic who is fascinating. I mean, he's looking into this. He's been looking into this for 2 years, and he's been telling me that the amount of interest into this topic is so low, and yet this is something. This could be so vital. I mean, we both agreed that perhaps we'll see the first lawsuit in next year because someone is not adhering to these things, and then all of a sudden everybody will wake up. So if you are listening and you're an IoT vendor, make sure you got your strategy right, because in May 2018 that thing will go into effect. And you know, privacy is important from an end user point of view, and not everyone seems to have an answer to that.
Agreed.
Any other? I have two more.
Well, I have one more. It's about, you know, so the fact that, you know, most of the solutions most of the solutions, they seem to be, you know, just in test pilots, proof of concepts, but, you know, whispers in the corridor seem to say that people believe that we are getting closer and closer to having, you know, larger deployments at larger scale.
Yeah.
So some even, you know, talk about, you know, 18 months before we can see like an explosion, you know, larger scale deployment.
18 months is the number that I heard as well, yeah?
Yeah, but, you know, I'm not sure about that. It will depend on the vertical, on the technologies and so on. But, you know, the feeling is that we are getting to that, you know,
first customers are really going to large scale rollout.
Exactly.
I had a discussion with the system integrator. They said their largest customer is a construction machinery manufacturer that is scaling from 50,000 assets which are connected this year, which is already quite a lot, to 150,000 next year. All of that is, and there's a few other examples like that, and we will follow that. We'll probably put out a report at one point where we will look at the real big success stories. We've been urged to do that. So yeah, absolutely. The other things I wanted to mention, I mean, one thing I feel is clearly coming up in the market, the topic of build versus buy from a customer point of view is not build versus buy anymore. It is rather build yourself on top of Microsoft, Amazon, so because you have to go with these cloud vendors, there's no way around it, versus buy an IoT platform that builds on top of these. So it's really about, do you, and Microsoft and Amazon do provide some frameworks, don't get me wrong, but do you want to design your vertical solution yourself on top of the cloud, or do you want to work with one of those platforms like PTC and like some others? And so it's not really everything from scratch. I think that's off the table by now. That's one thing that I think is pretty starting to emerge as a topic. Yeah. A couple of other ones. I had a good discussion with a guy from PTC while I was mentioned that, on the topic of what will be the earliest adopters of IoT, and we came to the conclusion that in manufacturing specifically, the smart factories will be quicker to adopt because they're in a closed system. The things are already in a way connected, and it's easier. So PTC, for example, is pushing that topic of smart factory a lot. Whereas in the long run, the bigger potential is in the connected equipment, in the machinery, in the assets, and everything that's out in the field. And that is then in conjunction with new business models, but it requires the companies to do a lot more transition and transformation. And I thought that was a good insight to see first the factory, then the connected equipment in terms of timeline. Yeah. And maybe the last one I wanted to mention was I had a good chat with the guys from ABB, the Swedish industrial automation company. And I thought they had a pretty good story of how they're transforming the manufacturing execution systems. Keep in mind that's a very specific part of the pyramid in the Industry 4.0 stack. How that is really transforming through IoT to a more of an overall manufacturing operations management, as they call it, that includes the quality check as part of the execution system, that includes connecting with all the other systems. Things that haven't happened before, and that's a very good example of how an MES system is evolving. I know we're already on 14 minutes, so I think we should probably come to the close here. Yeah. People don't like to listen for ages, so I think generally speaking, to me it was a very good conference. I learned a lot. I highly recommend it. I would love for them to bring on more customers. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. Just the only, problem was, it coincided with historical moment, not exactly, the idea to come,
Well, someone watching in 2 months will not know what we mean. The Catalan referendum basically shut down all public transportation, which had it stuck last night
Yeah,
until
and-
1 a.m. But that's a different story. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions. We'll be in touch. Next one coming up is the Huawei Connect conference in Berlin at the end of this month. Stay connected.